Welcome to It's Always Sunny Under the Sea in Japan. We're talking about a anime that involves submarines and the water. Blue Submarine number 6. I'm your host, Red Drum Arts.
I am Lugia, and whatever happened to Blue Submarines 1 through 5, huh?
I'm
Don't
Patty,
know.
and I wanted to make a Little Mermaid joke, but I couldn't think of one.
So anyway, um so the YouTube CEO, called Susan Wojcicki, well, I guess former YouTube CEO, but she was the YouTube CEO during a decent amount of time. I'm sure all of you have heard of Susan Wojcicki. She has unfortunately passed away from cancer. So rest in peace, Susan. She was a bit of a controversial figure due to the apocalypse, but I don't know. Most YouTubers are evil. They probably deserved it. Rest in peace, Susan. Anyway, Rachel Lillis passed away too. You may know Rachel Lillis for her work in anime. Actually, it's pretty relevant to this. She's probably best known for playing Misty and Jessie in Pokemon.
At least
I don't know if
the
you've
first few seasons, because they changed the voice cast later on by season 9, I think.
Yeah, she was the voice actor for the first 8 seasons of Pokemon. She also voiced like random Pokemon, including like the video games. And for the more I guess artsy anime fans, she played Utena in Revolutionary Girl Utena. Some characters in Slayers, Captain Tyler. Really, she's been in a ton of anime. She was in Berserk, Alien 9. So yeah, she's pretty prolific in the anime industry. Another death is Alain Delon. He is a kind of very famous actor he's a very famous French actor. He's kind of like starred in a lot of like very influential films of the 60s. So probably his best known film is Les Samurai, which is basically like ground zero for those like kind of like artsy hitman movies. So The Driver, Drive, all those stuff, heavily influenced by Les Samurai. Like Les Samurai is the original "He's Just Like Me for Real" movie. I guess that's what I'm saying. We'll probably talk about one of the movies he's been in eventually. That's probably the one we're going to talk about. Maybe Purple Noon. Purple Noon is probably best known as the most highly regarded adaptation of The Talented Mr. Ripley. Obviously, the 99 American movie is a bit more famous in the States because it's American, but among like critic crowds, Purple Noon is considered superior. But yeah, rest in peace. I know he's a controversial man in real life, but his impact on film is undeniable. Going on to the last one is Gina Rollins. This is another one you guys might be familiar with. Very famous American actor. Her best known movies were the John Cassavetes films, A Woman Under the Influence and Gloria. Actually, you guys remember that Fallen Angels?
I didn't see that one.
Patrick, you remember Fallen Angels? Patty, you remember Fallen Angels?
A little bit.
Okay, remember the lady with the blonde wig? It
Uh,
was during like the
Stupid
Hitman one.
question. Stupid question for context. Is she the one who I can't really think of another way to word this. Is she the one who who masturbated?
I don't remember. I don't know. This is the Hitman one.
I'll be very honest. Other
Okay.
than that and the ice cream thievery in the beginning, I don't remember much of Fallen Angels. I'm sorry.
Well, the blonde lady in Fallen Angels was heavily inspired by Gina Rollins' character in Gloria. She was also in a couple other films, Opening Night. Also, John Cassavetes. He's in a lot of John Cassavetes films, and also in a couple Nick Cassavetes films. He was obviously John Cassavetes and Gina Rollins' kid. Okay, that explains it. They're married. All right. But anyway, Nick Cassavetes is best known for directing The Notebook, so she was in The Notebook. She's in a Woody Allen film, Another Woman, which is one of the few ones I haven't seen yet. But yeah. So yeah, very prolific, kind of like artsier director. We'll probably see her in something eventually.
And to round out the passings, Greg Kinn of the Greg Kinn Band also passed away recently. He was 75 years old. And I'll be very honest, the only reason I know of him is because Weird Al did a parody of one of his songs. I Lost on Jeopardy is a parody of Jeopardy, which Fun fact, Greg Kinn cameoed in the music video for. And I guess you could clump this in with the passings. Cartoon Network's website is shut down.
That kind of hurts because I remember as a kid I used to go on that website all the time and play like the Adventure Time Flash games. I think there were two of them, and they were like side scrollers.
I
I
too
never
have
played the
fond
Flash
memories.
games. I played the other ones, but
No, I have fond memories of the Flash games. Me and my brother. I remember I remember Cheese Quest, the Foster's game that was like an 8-bit recreation of like an
oh yeah, yeah,
episode.
I played that.
I remember Paint Can Panic, the Camp Lazlo game. And I don't remember
I
the name
remember
of
a
it, but
few of
that one My Gym Partner's a Monkey game where it's like four different
yeah, yeah,
platforming
that's when I
levels.
was yeah,
Those
yeah,
are the
that
three I
like
remember the most.
Metroidvania. I remember the Billy and Mandy one where they were like you control both of them and they like throw pies and stuff. And there was also like a top down one where like they're both like Halloween stuff. I don't know if you remember this, but there was this one Tom and Jerry one that I really liked where you basically created like a Rube Goldberg machine to capture Jerry, like a mousetrap thing.
But I remember that game. I remember I could never figure out how to work it. Good times. Good times.
While we're on video games, Shadow Generation.
That's right. We got a new trailer for the Shadow portion of Sonic X Shadow Generations, and they revealed quite a few things for that. So throughout the course of the game, Shadow will get new powers. We've seen in the trailer that he can like grow wings to fly, but he can also turn into a squid. You ever just wake up one day like you're in Kafka's Metamorphosis and you just turn into a squid? That's
He's a
Shadow
kid. He's a
now.
squid.
So it looks like they're changing things up with the level design a little bit to accommodate for these powers, so we'll see how that goes. We also got a few new stages to look at from games after Generations, which I thought wasn't on the table, but here we are. So I believe I haven't played Forces, but I think we're getting Sunset Heights from Forces, but they showed off like the underground portion, I think it is. And surprisingly enough, we're also getting Frontiers representation with Chaos Island. You remember Chaos Island, right? It's like the volcano one.
Hmm.
So I'm
For some
really
reason, my brain was just going to like Final Fantasy Origins, where it was like, I have to get defeat chaos, chaos.
so I'm really curious to see what they do with that because like Rail Canyon and Sonic Heroes, which they're also bringing back, you don't really hear people say Chaos Island was their favorite one, but who knows? They might change that. And we also got one final reveal. They brought back Metal Overlord from Sonic Heroes, and that makes me really fucking happy as a Heroes fanboy. But yeah, that's it for the reveals.
Back to you, Red. Hello.
Unfortunately, the Avatar 3, which was formerly called the Seed Bearer, has it's no longer called the Seed Bearer, which disappoints me greatly because that was such a funny title, and there's so many good jokes I could have made. The Sneed Bearer, the Nut Catcher,
The Weed
the
Sharer.
Cum Dumpster. I don't know. It was like now it's called Fire and Ash. It's like, oh, boo. That's a safe answer. Should have kept the one that was freaky. That was announced at Disney's D23, which they announced a couple things, including live action Lilo and Stitch, which was received very negatively off the bat. I don't know if you guys saw the CGI Stitch.
I have not, but I could look
I've
up a
seen it.
picture.
This thing, a lot of people are like, "Oh, it doesn't look that bad," but like, it doesn't matter. Like, it's just like so, like everyone just is like so viscerally like against the idea. They're just like, "What the fuck is this?" No, I don't care.
Uh, okay. I think I would have to see it in motion because at a standstill, it doesn't look awful.
They did
It
show it in
doesn't look
motion.
awful, but it's just not something you wanna. It's not something you want. They showed off like the Snow White trailer too. That one looked really ugly. I was like, I don't know. There's so much.
Audiences really want that Mufasa prequel. Am I right?
I've actually heard that like people think it looks better than the live action Lion King because I guess they like emote the characters a little bit more.
It looks more expressive, but like, do we really need another live action Lion King? Granted, it's based on
We
some.
need to find
It's
out how
not.
Scar got the scar. Yeah, imagine they just like recreate stuff from it. Like imagine like they make a Rapunzel 2 and it's like tied into the TV show. That'd be really funny. Not Rapunzel 2, Tangled 2. I don't know. Apparently there's like gonna be a Frozen 3 and 4 also. It's like a ton of like lore.
I'm surprised they haven't done a Frozen 3 yet.
I
Because
mean, Frozen 2
when did
wasn't
that
that
come
long
out?
ago. Right?
2019.
That was 5 years ago. Jesus. Okay.
And the
And
first
when did
movie
Frozen
was
come out?
2013?
13,
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
which was 6 years. So let me see. What year is Frozen 3 announced for? 2027.
Mm-hmm. So
So
Okay.
around the same
So
time.
8 years after two.
I guess like yeah. So
Give them credit for
Jerusalem.
spacing it out. Usually sequels come out like 3 to 4 years after the original.
Sometimes not even.
I think it's because they Disney always feels like they need to like increase their technology with every like new movie. We're like honestly, I think it's to the detriment now because like a lot of the movies look really like weird to me. But this time, Anna is gonna be the Frozen one. I never got why Elsa was so popular because Anna was like the actual main character of the movies, and she's like the likable one. But I
Because
don't know, whatever.
it's the one song. Everyone loves her for the song.
Yeah, the song that like the rest of the movie is like disagreeing with thematically. Like let her go, and then the rest of the movie's like, no, you can't. The sequel's like straight up saying you can't. Like the sequel is like you can't let go of the past. What the fuck? Like no, there are consequences for this shit. Anyway, last bit of news is Dead Rising. I probably should have mentioned this with the Shadow Generations thing because that is video game related. Whoopsies. Um, so Dead Rising is another entry in a long string of controversies with remasters in video games. So for some reason, a lot of companies have been remaking or remastering video games, and it's been annoying a lot of people because one, a lot of the games they're remastering are like they still hold up, and you can also play them on modern consoles. Like I don't know how to put this, but like you don't need to ever remake a PlayStation 3 or Xbox 360 game because nothing has changed really in terms of like gaming. Like the only difference would be a graphical change, but most people think the graphics look worse. They apparently added stuff like yellow paint, which like kind of undermines like game design. Have you guys heard of the yellow paint controversy with game design?
Yeah, I remember when Resident Evil 4 remake came out, people made a huge sticking point about it.
Yeah, well, like, I understand it because like the game was already didn't have it before, so like the fact that they're adding it makes them think like I think like new audiences are stupid. That's basically what they're saying, and I was like, all right, well, fuck you too. Playing a Metroidvania and they have like arrows everywhere. I was like, well, come on, man, what the fuck?
I mean, some give you like a hint system, but they don't really tell you how to get there.
Yeah, I don't know. I prefer like games to like not do that. Like, but no. But yeah, Dead Rising did that, and apparently they're also like cutting out some stuff. They're cutting out this the infamous erotica thing in the game. So the people like upset about it. I guess the people praising it are just like, oh, it's kind of weird and creepy. Is making the main character out to be a creep, and the people supporting it are like, it is supposed to be creepy. The whole game is like actively satirizing the paparazzi industry. Do you not remember what the paparazzi do? It's like they are creepy. To me, it's kind of like the French Connection controversy. Do you guys remember that?
Vaguely.
Okay, so what happened is on Disney Plus, the French Connection got put up there, and they cut out the main character Popeye Doyle saying the N word, and a lot of people were upset because Popeye Doyle is a racist. That's like a part of the story, and they're like, you're cutting away the fact that the police. And I was like, oh, we're doing it because like George Floyd, and I was like, the French Connection is about how the police are racist. Like, it was one of the first. It was like the first movie ever to just explicitly say, to give you like context of the French Connection. So Willem Friedkin was like, I want to make like a fictional movie, but like make it feel like a documentary. So he was like, he like did attention to detail and racism, and because of that, he showed that the police are racist and they racially profile. And a lot of like audiences at the time, like they praise it, like black audiences, because they're like, it's the first time like you ever got like an honest depiction of the police. And like he's still like meant to be like a likable character, yeah, just because like he has like stopping a terrorist, like and it's Gene Hackman, but that element was very like important. It was kind of meant to challenge the audience, as like, oh, your hero he's a bit of a racist. That's something you need to like chew on. And I don't know. The censorship kind of like detracted from that. It suddenly changed like the complex character to just being kind of straightforward good. It made something that had shades of gray and made it black and white, which is disappointing. It flattens the image, and that's kind of the same thing happening with Dead Rising. Like, I think some people kind of like over exaggerate. It's like, oh, Frank's supposed to be a piece of shit. It's like, no, I mean, Frank's obviously the hero, but like, there's obviously like he's doing like shady stuff in the name of good. But yeah, this is part of like a quest line also, so that's another thing. People wonder is like, are they just like rotely removing this thing? How's that like quest line gonna get like handled? Like, there's a whole boss fight you won't be able to play, and it was like, I don't know. They do this a lot. The Sam and Max remasters. You remember Sam and Max?
I know of them.
They, yeah. So the Telltale games had a remaster not too long ago. In fact, a new remaster is coming out too. But the previous remaster cut out some jokes, which and a lot of people are like, why? Because like one, like it's Sam and Max. How offensive could it be? It's for kids. The Metal Gear Solid collection, they added like you remember the scene where like Meryl beats up all the guards and like the kind of strips them naked and shit?
Yeah. That's
Uh
not in
they
the
added clothes to them.
Okay.
No, it's in there, but they added clothes to them. So it's like, well, the joke's kind of like ruined then, but like whatever. It's like it's all these like little changes. It's like so minor, but it's like it makes you like wonder. It's like if it's so minor, why even cut it out? Like a lot of these remasters like don't even like improve the game, so they're just like re-releasing the same thing, but like they're making it a little bit worse, and then they're like delisting the original versions because again, the original versions are available on this stuff. Dead Rising was made in like what 2010. You can play that on the PC. You can pop those discs in the PS5 and like it'll work. So I don't know. That was a lot of rambling. What do you guys think about censorship
Depends on how it's done.
of
If it
unsavory stuff?
uh sometimes it could actually work in a game's favor, so I don't think you're familiar with this at all, but there's a cutscene in Xenosaga episode 1 where one of the villains, his name is Albedo, tries to demonstrate his power by terrorizing a child. And what he does in the original Japanese version, he uses a knife to cut off his arm and then grow it back. But in the English version, he just rips it off completely and he also twists off his head. And that's supposed to be the
Well, I mean,
censored version.
all right, I still feel like that's like a little one. That's a little different, but two, it doesn't like.
Despite it being censored, it's honestly more effective in portraying him that he's like an absolute fucking madman.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I know like the animated series had some stuff with that, but like I don't know. I feel like that's more of like artists who got like put an arbitrary limit doing something clever with it, rather than like a lot of these where it's just like taking someone's work and like taking a knife to it and just like
Right.
I don't know. I feel like that's like different. Even if like it's the artist like going back to their old work, it's like I don't know. Like you guys weren't cool when George Lucas did it, so like if it happens like during development, it's a little bit different to me, just because like at that point, like the artist gets to like kind of like they still have, like some control. Like again with Batman the animated series, like they were putting like limits and stuff, so they were allowed to like do things. And like with Batman Beyond: Return of the Joker, so there was the version that aired on TV, and then the DVD version they had like different death scenes for the Joker, but like they still got to like choose. It wasn't just like they cut it out or something. So that to me is like kind of the difference. There's actual like artist kind of control in it, and if it's not like a retroactive thing, like the retroactive stuff's the thing that like throws me off more. I guess like the fact that like years after the fact you're taking out stuff
Right.
like that throws me off. I don't know. What do you think, Patty?
I get it all depends on context.
I don't know. I feel
Okay,
like to me this is like much more of like a principle thing to me. Like I don't think they're like any because like some people are always like, oh well, we need to update it to like, but it's like I don't know, like the way I always thought of it. Like art was like a reflection of the times, and I feel like you're kind of like erasing because like that's the thing with like the French Connection thing. It was like all you really are doing is like just hiding the fact that like they're like police are like this or that like people in the 70s knew the police were like this and like I don't know. It's like when you like censor like
um,
a racist like Looney Tunes, it was like you're kind of just like trying to like clean up your image. You're trying to hide your kind of unsavory past, like
uh, if I need to give an example of something, right, you guys remember the Music Man, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a few years ago, they revived it on Broadway with Hugh Jackman, and they changed a few things around because certain aspects of the original show haven't aged well. There is a scene during the town council where they recreate like a native tribe, um, like when the Americans first came, and that scene was like very racist. So they switched that around, which I can understand, but there's a big change a lot of people did not like is that they actually rewrote the lyrics to Shapoopy because
Yeah.
if you look at the lyrics, they're actually like not great. They changed it around to being "Wait for your girl to say yes," and like in the
Huh.
grand scheme of things, that scene really isn't plot necessary. So like I feel like if you just cut that scene, like people wouldn't be as upset about it.
I don't
I
know.
don't know.
I always just like feel.
That's the best example I could think of.
I always just feel like it's kind of like I get not wanting to like offend people nowadays, but I always just kind of feel like when it comes to like these historical things, like I feel like it should be known what the original was like, or at least what it was like at the time. Like if you're making like a new adaptation of Peter Pan, like okay, it makes sense. Don't want to include the Native American stuff, like because you're telling a new kind of story or whatever. But if like you're specifically trying to like re-releasing the old version, hiding the racism to me is like it's kind of like, but like that's bad too in my opinion because like you're just kind of like trying to sweep like it under the like I don't know, like it feels like with the Music Man, I guess like it's fine just because like that's each play is kind of its like own thing. Like you direct like with live theater, it's a bit different. But like yeah, I guess I don't know.
Blue Submarine.
Yeah, Blue Submarine. So Blue Submarine number 6 is a the first OVA to ever be animated like digitally. Yeah, let me actually just go into the history a bit. So Blue Submarine was kind of like it came out in 1998 and it was directed by a studio called Studio Gonzo, which was a very somewhat revolutionary company. So it was made up by a lot of former Gynax members, early like Gynax members. So not the people who worked on Evangelion, but like the people who worked on like the earlier stuff. Their company's kind of like dead now, but like back in the day, they were known for really like pushing technology in anime. Very prolific during like the 2000s. Have you ever seen Lost Exile? Any of you?
No.
No.
I thought Lugia might have just because like it's got a very kind of like similar vibe to FMA. So like I figured he might have like one day Googled like, are there any
I
other anime like FMA? And he
I've
saw the
never
style. I
even
was like,
heard of
okay,
it
I'll check it.
before.
Almost crazy. I watched a YouTube video the other day from Doug Walker and he name dropped it and I was like, Doug, how the fuck do you know about Lost Exile? It's just like weird to me. Like every once in a while he'll just like name drop something like kind of obscure and I'm like, how do you know this? Who told you about this? Are you familiar with Chrono Crusade?
No,
No.
Well, got Chrono in the title.
but it's not that series though. I don't think.
I'm not sure. When I'm looking at the art for it, it kind of looks like it is, but I'm not sure. Like it
Wait,
looks like
was
it
it
could
done
like
by
be a sequel to
Toriyama?
Chrono Cross. No,
Hold up, what's it
I
called?
mean Chrono Cross wasn't done by Toriyama either. Chrono Crusade. It's Daisuke Moriyama. Who did Chrono Cross? Like that's the thing. It reminds me of Chrono Cross. Like that's what I'm saying. I don't know.
No, I don't see how this looks like Chrono Cross.
All right, let's see. Gantz.
The logo uses a similar font to Trigger. I see that, but I don't see how the art style is similar.
Let's see. Welcome to NHK. They've done like a couple. Welcome to NHK. I think I've probably mentioned that before. You guys, like in private. That's a good show. But yeah, they've done a lot of stuff. They're very prolific throughout the 2000s, 2010s. They did that Fantasy Star Online 2 anime from like 5 years ago. Yukikaze, couple things. Anyway, but Blue Submarine number 6 is that was one of their first like big projects, and it was revolutionary because it was the first anime to be fully digital. So like you know how most anime like in the 90s were like cell and paint stuff, and then eventually throughout the 2000s, and this includes like American cartoons, they started going more into like digital coloring. So like I don't know if you guys have like you probably haven't in a while, but like if you ever like watch a '90s Simpson episode and a 2000 Simpson episode back to back, like they'll look similar, but like the coloring will be like a little bit different. Or if you watch like the last season of Ed and Eddie versus like the earlier ones, like the coloring is a little bit different. That's because like they switched to digital throughout production. So this was basically like these people are like, I want to be the pioneers, so they decided like first one to do digital, first one to do hybrid 3D computer graphics and digital too. The 3D graphics probably aged a bit less well as the digital animation, but you know, whatever. But yeah, anyway, it's 4 episodes. I'd recommend watching them all in a row because it's paced like a movie, so I just figured I'd just watch it like a movie. That's what you guys did, right?
Yeah, I saw
Mm.
everything like in one sitting.
Yeah, same here.
All right. All right, yeah. So it was a technical revolution, and because of that, I was very curious on it. But then when I watched it, I actually thought it had some real meat to it, and it was pretty good. I think some people expected more from it, which is because it's a bit of like a controversial series. Like some people love it, some people don't, because like I guess some people expected more from it than what they got. What did you guys think? You know, watching it as like a movie.
So watching this, I thought it was like a mix of Cowboy Bebop and Princess Mononoke. The Princess Mononoke comparison being like how there's like a whole man versus man and man versus nature theme throughout the whole series, and how two sides eventually
I
have
agree.
to coexist together. And Cowboy
Maybe there's a
Bebop,
little bit of a romance thing.
sorry.
Yeah. Even having a little bit of a romance thing with like the human and like the fish lady and
Yeah.
whatnot. Yeah.
And the Cowboy Bebop comparison is mainly just for the
That
jazz.
bitching fucking soundtrack. Holy fuck. This okay. Just a random aside. That fucking soundtrack, right? Like that's crazy, right?
Okay,
I don't know.
here's the thing. I like it. I don't think it fits for this though, because compare it to Cowboy
Okay,
Bebop,
there's
where
that one scene, that one end of the episode where like you see his horrified face and then like the saxophone just blaring. That one kind of cracked me up, I'll admit, but I fucking love the soundtrack.
but like when you compare it to Cowboy Bebop, the tone is much different because it's just a group of bounty hunters, not
Yeah, and
necessarily
also
on a daily grind, but like
when it
it's
gets sad, it also like changes it to be like they change it up like a
yeah.
bit. When here it's just like always at 100.
In Bebop,
Yeah,
the
it's
stakes are not really
Never
as
just slows
high.
down.
There's not really like too much at risk. Whereas in Blue Submarine, it's pretty much the end of the world, and humanity is like on its last legs trying to
yeah,
survive.
like it's taking itself really seriously. The music's like
Again, the music itself is
That's how
good in a bubble. I just don't think it
okay.
fits for this series.
Yeah, I don't know. I felt like it was trying to do like a Sonic Unleashed thing, where it's like, okay, the world may be ending, but like we're still having fun. It's like that's not really the tone you're going for.
yes.
Like you like
I don't know, but every
Well, Sonic
if you
Unleashed
listen
isn't
to it, it's
about the
on its
world
own though.
ending, it's about having a world adventure.
random question:
Huh?
have you guys ever played Simpsons Hit and Run?
Yes.
I've sampled it.
Because every time like an action scene would start and the music would kick in with the saxophone and everything, every time it kicked in, I was reminded of the theme in Hit and Run when you're being chased by the police.
All right. Yeah.
Because it says, all right, it says you've achieved hit and run, and the music's like.
Great soundtrack on its own. A little bit of a tonal disconnect because this series is a bit kind of like dour. You guys compared to Princess Mononoke, I thought it reminded of like a like one of those like Pocahontas or like Avatar type movies, but just like I liked it more than Pocahontas and Avatar. But, kind of like those like type things. I Am Legend almost as well because like it's kind of about humanity being replaced. Fallout,
So if we're bringing
Fallout
up
2.
comparisons, to me this kind of felt like, what if James Cameron made Waterworld and then it was an anime?
Yeah,
Because I was getting
yeah.
strong vibes of like Avatar, but also like the Abyss with all the submarine stuff.
Here's the thing. I have a crack conspiracy theory that James Cameron 100% saw this OVA, and 100% took inspiration from it for Avatar.
I can buy that.
My proof is I got a couple pieces of evidence, so I'm gonna post some of them. Okay, one of them is this one background character. This shows up in the last episode when you see all of Zoldike's creations, but this one background character looks so much like a Navi. I'm like, this has to be someone on staff had to have seen it and be like, that's a kind of cool design.
You're not
Um,
slipping one by us this time, Cameron.
my second theory is that Cameron is an anime fan, like, and he's a fan of like relatively obscure anime. Like we all know he likes Alita Battle Angel, but he wrote a fan letter to Ko Yokiyama, who directed Blood, The Last Vampire. That was another kind of similar like early digital OVA, and it was like, I don't know, I don't really believe that a guy who's into anime in the 90s, that's also known for like always trying to push technology, was not aware of this anime about water that was trying to push technology. Like everything about it screams James Cameron's going to be interested in it. I don't believe he hasn't seen it. So yeah, that's my conspiracy. What did you guys think of the story, I guess? That's my main question.
All right, so I don't know if this is a weird. I'm not want to say criticism. I guess comment. While I was watching this, I found myself constantly asking, why wasn't this just a straight up movie? Like it's an OVA, it's split into four parts, which like cool. But again, with the way it's paced, with its heavy use of
It's
CGI and action
it's
scenes, I'm like,
production is
and
pretty much.
the fact it's like 2 hours long, I'm like, why wasn't this just condensed together and made into a movie?
And this was spread out between like 2 years, I think. So I think the
Yeah,
last
that's
Like,
the
give it a
thing.
episode came
bigger
out in
It was
budget, you could
it
2000.
was
polish out the
a
CGI.
it was a production thing pretty much. Like yeah, it was just a production thing. They kind of had to
Mhm.
split up. Again, it was new technology. That was kind of a thing. So like I think 'cause, I don't know if you noticed, but like the CGI in episode one, kind of weird. CGI in the later episodes looks fine. I think it was very much just them completing episode one and being like, maybe some more time to cook on this."
I mean,
Um,
this was released over the course of like 3 years, so
yeah, I think it's also like a kind of financial thing. The OVA market is not a thing that really exists in America, but like it's a big thing in Japan, so I think it just probably made more financial sense to do it as an OVA than a movie. But anyway, but ignoring like the I guess the mechanics of how it was made, just what do you think of the story? I know Lugia, you mentioned like it reminded you of Princess Mononoke and whatnot, and then I kind of like interrupted you when you mentioned the soundtrack. Just you can just continue what your thoughts are.
I'm gonna let Patty continue.
dumb question. Can one of you start off and then I'll interject
Okay, fine.
when I
I
feel
will.
right? I'm
Um,
sorry.
Okay,
so
so it's some ground for the audience because I just realized I never actually explained what the story is. But the story is in the distant future, Earth's oceans have risen and flooded most of the land, and there are now these like hybrid half animals that are have basically waged a war against humanity. Yeah, there's kind of like this man versus nature and like the kind of like a bunch of kind of like very heady themes, very like Jungian stuff, but like it's mostly just kind of like a war story. You know, one character kind of learns to connect with the fish people. He also finds out his best friend got turned into a fish person. You know, a lot of kind of complicated stuff there. And last episode, you kind of hear what the fuck, I forgot how to pronounce his name, even though I just said it.
Zorndike.
Zorndike?
Zorndike, yeah, Zorndike's kind of master plan, where you kind of hear his kind of like theories and whatnot. So most of like the big thematic stuff it's much more like heavy in like thematic stuff than it is more in like plot stuff. Because like I know from like a traditional plot structure, this is something a lot of people criticize, but like you kind of have this like kind of linking initially with the lead and this little mermaid girl, and their connection isn't really like the through line of the film like you may expect. It's more just like the jumping off point for him to
Yeah, I
like
was surprised. I
reconsider
thought she was
stuff.
gonna appear in the movie a lot more, but like
The only thing
she's
she
only
really
in like
does
two
is save
scenes.
his life after he saved hers, and then she's just kind of a background character for the rest of it.
Yeah, all she really is like a catalyst for the dude's like kind of change in view. The whale I feel is like probably had more like thematic like significance, honestly. Also the whale, that's another thing I think
Okay,
James
hold
Cameron
on.
looked for
So,
Avatar.
did you guys see this subbed or dubbed?
I mean I saw both, I guess. So it does
I
is much
saw
of a difference.
The voice of the whale fucking killed me. It's like the most low energy shit you've ever heard.
I thought like the first episode was really great. The last episode was really great. It was like the middle that was kind of like more of a mixed bag, I guess.
That's
'Cause I
funny
thought like
because I'm the opposite on that one. I thought it got really good by the end of the second episode because of what happens at the end.
What happens at the end again?
Hayami is like left all by himself, and he thinks that his crew is dead, and he's like the only person left on in the world. Like I thought that
Oh, I
was
thought
such
that
a
was in episode 1.
no,
Okay,
that
never
was the end
mind.
of episode 2.
Alright, sorry.
I'll say
I
I'm
get
with Lukey on this. I thought it like the first episode was like fine, but I thought it got more compelling as it went on. Like midway through the second episode is when like
Yeah,
it really
okay.
clicked for me.
Okay, not to mention it yeah, again, I just got confused. Yeah, I agree, actually, it gets better as it goes along. It's just, like, I feel like there is, like, just some stuff in the middle where, like, they kinda, like, introduce some stuff, but they kinda, like, don't drop it, and it's, like, it's part of this wider thematic tapestry, but it's not really, like as, like, a plot, it's not driven that forward, but,
Yeah, because like the first
no, I
episode,
liked it
it's
a lot.
basically just one big long action scene, and I'm like, it's cool, but like I don't know anything about anyone or why we're fighting. And it's not until midway through the second episode that like I understand like what's actually happening and who these people are.
There's a lot of, like it's pretty dense in, like, its direction too, where, like, there's a lot of details where, like, I feel like, some people may not pick up on, like, I don't think a lot of people really understand, like, what happened with his friend or all that stuff, so, like, basically, to sort of clear that up, basically, the reason, the main character was, like, kind of, like, fucked up in the at the start is because him and his friend kinda went on a mission, and his friend supposedly died or whatever, and then later on, we kinda feel like his friend got experimented on by Zorndike and kinda turned into the sort of fish hybrid, and, this kinda, like, fuels a bit of his, like, kinda negative resentment, but then obviously this kind of flips when he meets more of the fish people, and at the end you actually see his friend as a fish person, happy and whatnot, and kind of like there's some interesting stuff there.
That's what made
Moral of
the
the
end of the
story is
second
life is better
episode
when you're a fish.
That's what made the end of the second episode so interesting because we learned that Hayami lost his friend because of his hubris. And then at the end, when he thinks that everyone died because of his actions, like history repeated itself, only this time the consequences were much more grave.
Yeah,
And then it turns out everyone was fine.
And everybody's getting on Hayami's case because they're like, why can't you be more like your partner? He sacrificed himself for us. Dude, he tried to save him.
yeah. A lot of this structure kind of reminds me of like almost Evangelion in a way, which I know you guys haven't seen, but like it's like you're trying to sort of condense that into a kind of it's another like kind of genetic war because like the angels and Evangelion are meant to be like kind of like the Prometheus type stuff where they're like the original people on Earth and whatnot, and it's interesting. So there's some kind of thematic stuff there. The villains I thought were kind of interesting. So there's Jung Zorndike, and then that sort of main shark dude. The shark dude I
I
think was
believe
actually pretty
I believe
interesting.
his name is Verge.
The shark dude, 10 out of 10 design. I fucking love that design, man. That shark dude had like such a good like character design. I was like, holy shit. So yeah, the shark dude I thought was kind of interesting because like he's kind of like sort of like the extremist of this thing. He's, like, sort of filled with rage against humanity and, like, kind of like the main, like, girl's, like, kinda like Lady Starfish, not the starfish, the, lady kinda like mermaid that kind of, like, kickstarts this, whole thing. You would kinda see him, like, kinda, like, go nuts on her, but, like, I always thought, like, the scene at the end with him, I thought was, like, very, like, it was very affecting for me where, like, he kinda wants revenge over his, like, dad dying with the, on the lead, but, he almost, like, just kinda, like, gives up and just, like, leaves, and, like, I don't know, there's something about that action where it's just, like, it's not even, like, worth it anymore. It's kind of interesting. Like, it's kinda you can read something into kinda like the psychology of the stuff there, it was more of, like, you know Young Jung is obviously the main villain. One thing that immediately stood out to me is the fact that his name is Jung, which is, and he creates animal people. I don't know if you're familiar with Carl Jung, School of Psychology, but he had this theory on the collective unconsciousness, but also the animus as the unconscious masculine side of the woman, the animal, the unconscious feminine side of a man, which transcends a personal psyche. And there was kind of like this animal kind of thing going on there, and I feel like that was kind of this film was almost trying to represent that with kind of like the hybrids and like the sort of connection they kind of have with this. It was almost sort of like a yin yang thing going on with like this. There's also the wounded healer kind of archetype. The Chiron, like the wounded healer in Carl Jung. So the Chiron myth begins with like woundings by one own arrow means first all the state of like introversion and going into. I don't know how to like talk about this without going into like a whole thing, but there's like a lot of like interesting kind of psychology stuff with that I think is like very like heavily layered onto this, and also kind of like some interesting stuff with like cycles of violence. I mentioned this earlier, but like Fallout 2, I don't know if like guys have ever played that, but like the villain there is very similar to sort of Zorndike, where he was kind of like wants to like he's got this kind of thing with like he kind of created these like this people, this race that he's kind of like championing, but at the same time, like in the end, he kind of like has to contend that they do have to sort of like work with each other. And I know like Jung's like whole goal is kind of like that humanity does this, and like there's a lot of like I believe like Jung is meant to be like the victim. Zorndike is meant to be like a victim of the like Albanian genocide or something similar to that. There's a lot of like shit going on there. The whole like last episode adds like so much that it like it's like the one of the reasons I kind of want to revisit it just because like that last episode dumps so much onto you thematically. It kind of makes you like it makes me like rethink about everything like before, and I don't know if that like happened to you guys too, where like his speech was like, "Oh shit, what the hell?"
It was also kind of weird seeing how Antarctica was just a tropical island.
Yeah, well, I mean that's kind of like this idea of how he kind of like terraformed everything. What do you guys like think of that fucking like lady tree that he was next to? Because that was fucking nuts. Like the whole speech where like he was like next to that like sort of tree hybrid. Like I don't know, there's some interesting like, kind of like genetic stuff that kind of like imply in the background with like he terraformed Australia. He not Australia, Antarctica. He has these like kind of human animal hybrids. We definitely see that they are humans because of like what he did to the Lee's friend. And you got this like human tree. Like it was all kind of
Actually, if
like
I can
interesting
comment
stuff
for a
there.
second, I love how the voices of the mutants are both distorted and regular sounding at the same time.
Yeah,
Like, I thought
that's
that
like
was a great touch.
the direction in this like in general is just like fantastic. Like some of the CGI and like the start kind of dated, but all like the 2D animation is so fucking good. And a lot of the CGI stuff, like when it's underwater, is also still pretty good, especially like later on. Like, what do you guys think of the animation? Like, that's just like one thing we haven't even talked about. Like, holy
I
fuck,
think
that
that a lot of
animation
the
is good.
hand drawn stuff still holds up pretty well. The mixing with CG though is definitely a sign of the time, and it's all right for what it is. It didn't really jive with me, but I got used to it as it progressed.
Yeah, and like they just got better as it progressed too. Also, like,
Dated CGI doesn't phase me. Again, I grew up with Hoodwinked, so I'm cool
I'm
with
gonna be
it.
honest, the TV CGI is still not that good. It's so
My issue is that it just meshes with the hand drawn art style because there are times where you see the characters which are hand drawn in these CGI vehicles and submarines and environments, and it's like it feels a little out of place. Hoodwinked is a different
yeah,
case where everything is CGI animated, so it has a style to it.
yeah, that's fair. That's the
I don't
thing is
know.
just fine, just because like
I'm just not
it's
as
all the
critical of
technology. It's
animation
not
as
like
other people are.
doesn't throw me out just because like it's all like it's mostly vehicles and whatnot that's like CGI. It's not so much
And
the
again, it was like
characters.
the late '90s. At this point, like CGI was still a new thing. So at least in terms of
Yeah,
like
remember,
major
A Bug's Life
production.
had not come out yet. It was only Toy
No.
Story.
And at that point, you had like in TV, you had like what Veggie Tales. So
Not even. It was a reboot. I think there's just like a lot of like good thematic value going on here, and a lot of like great stuff and like details and stuff. But I guess like general story, it's just like pretty solid, kind of like this, kill the villain type thing. But like you kind of learn that like they're ultimately like somewhat sympathetic towards the end. Like the speech at the end kind of reminds me of like almost like Snowpiercer in a way, or the Matrix like Reloaded, where like you talk to the architect, you kind of learn some of that kind of flips everything on its head. Like there's still the villain, they still you still kill him, but like it's still kind of like it changes everything. Like the story is also kind of similar. It was like you kind of like fighting this war kind of revolution thing, but like you maybe meet some people that sort of flips your perception. So yeah, I'm thinking it's kind of like a mix of like the Matrix, Snowpiercer, and like Princess Mononoke. And I feel like there's kind of like a similar thing. It does end a bit on like a sort of like No Country for Old Men type anticlimax. I don't know if that like bothered you or anything like Lugia or whatever, but I don't know.
Not
I
for
ultimately
this
thought it was
one.
pretty good.
I thought the open endedness kind of fit for something like this.
I think like it works just because like the guy gives like it's not just like a sudden like anticlimax. Like you get this like whole kind of speech and that almost is the payoff, and then you still get like the fight at the end with and like I don't know.
Like I wasn't expecting a "Where are they now" segment or anything like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Fucking freeze frame like Jackson 5. I don't know. What did you guys think of the ending?
It worked for what it was,
Yeah.
especially with how what's the fish man's name? Verge.
Yeah.
I think so.
When he learns that Zorndike is dead, like he just absolutely loses it. And like even though Hayami says we need to coexist, we need to work together, like he's still hesitant on that and he's still racist towards humans, but like it's not like he was going to just say, "Okay, let's live together in peace." Like no, there needs to be like a build up for that. Like it's not something that can just happen on a whim even after this grand scale war.
I just realized, like, him kind of destroying the eco. Like, oh, I just realized something with the Antarctica stuff. He probably melted the polar ice caps, and that's why the water rose. That was probably what he did.
So this is a commentary on global warming?
No, I mean maybe. I guess man-made global warming, and I guess there is somewhat of like an equating, like the devastation that man does on each other, like with the genocides and stuff, and also just kind of the devastation it does to the planet. And again, like it is Princess Mononoke. I mean, Princess Mononoke had that whole thing too, where it was like there was kind of like the necessity with like technology and whatnot, but also kind of like the it is we are doing kind of harm to the planet, needless harm to the planet. We need to kind of find a balance. Like that's the thing with like I feel like a lot of Japanese stuff in general has very much themes of trying to balance stuff out. Balance technology with nature. And like the hybrids are almost meant to be like kind of like a distillation of that. This isn't like a Zoldyck is right type of thing though, because he was like kind of a crazy mass murderer, but like there is like something you can. There's a lot you can read into his ideology.
Like with him trying to test humanity to see if they could still
Yeah. But
survive.
you guys watched the dub, right? Not the sub.
I saw it dubbed.
Okay, in the dub, do they mention the genocide?
I think so. I
Like that
believe
is
it
like
played more
children
of
and
a.
grandchildren were all massacred.
I don't remember actually. I think that was more of a background element if it was there.
Okay, because they in the sub they emphasize that his wife and children were all massacred and put in a mass grave. So basically he was genocided, and this was almost kind of like a revenge thing. But the thing with Zorndek at the end is like you can tell that this started off as vengeful, but like he has no more energy left in him for anything, and he doesn't really have control over what he created. He's just kind of hanging out until he dies of old age, or everyone kind of manages to destroy the world after all. There is that sort of thing too. It's kind of like that Joker thing, The Dark Knight, where like I'm sorry, like I watched this like 2 weeks ago, so I don't really remember the details, but like I remember there was some sort of thing where like Zorndek was doing a test on humanity or whatever, where like if they do this, then like everyone dies, but like if they don't, then they don't, and it was this kind of like Joker thing from like The Dark Knight. He had like kind of a similar plan. It reminded me of that almost. Um,
Actually, something that I did find interesting is in episode 2 when Verge is talking with Zorndag and he's basically saying, "Papa, your plan's almost complete. It's almost finished." Like, mwahaha. Zorndag just says, "Just be safe. I'll talk to you later." So like
yeah,
maybe a part of him is like
like
maybe
again, it very much feels like that he's almost tired of this, and it's like yeah, and like again, even with like Verge, like he's when his like things when his like dad's died, he's like angry and stuff. But, like he doesn't really have much like of a purpose for it. It was all just like about him. It was like I don't know. I feel like there's a very like human kind of story with Zorndike. I feel like Zorndike is a very interesting character, and it reminds me of kind of like Vicious B movie almost, where like there's like a pulpy element to it, but you can tell like that they put like some real thought into like the themes of it, even though if like execution wise, it is ultimately just kind of like a pulpy kind of like James Cameron type action movie, like Aliens or whatever. So like yeah, again, very James Cameron. Where like Aliens, like Avatar, it seems like very kind of like a just a kind of pulpy sort of like war story. But if you dig into it a little bit, there's more to it.
yes, James Cameron's Waterworld the anime has more to it than you may think.
I feel like I probably should have done another rewatch just so I could have more of the stuff fresh in my memory. But if you've ever seen the anime before and like kind of like dismissed it, I'd recommend giving it a rewatch and paying more attention into the stuff with Zorndike, maybe looking into the Animus and like Chiron and all that stuff with Carl Jung. But even like if you don't, I think it's just a pretty fun like pulp, decent action. Soundtrack's good on its own. If you ever just want like, I feel like I remember after I watched this, I would sometimes like just put on the soundtrack to listen to sometimes, just because it is pretty fun as its own thing. So yeah, I'd recommend it. Pretty good. Maybe not 2 thumbs up, but like 1 thumbs up, definitely.
I give Blue Submarine number 6 a 6 out of 10.
No, this was pretty good. I didn't know what to expect from this, but I quite enjoyed myself. And should they ever drop Blue Submarine number 7, I would probably give it a look.
There isn't any extended media for this franchise, is there?
This is based on a 60s manga, but that manga is not translated, so I think there was also a kind of a reboot manga right before this anime came out, also not translated, so yeah. There are 2 video games though. I believe those are available. One's for the PlayStation, one's for the Dreamcast, so I know some people have like played that or so. I heard they're decent little games, so they're Japanese exclusive, but it's a ROM. You can find those easily. Kind of hard to find the manga though. Like I don't even think you can find them untranslated online.
So, Lugia,
Oh,
I believe it is your turn, unless we had anything else to add about Blue Submarine number 6.
I got nothing.
Okay, yeah, Lugia, you're next.
All right. So, question. I know we did
Alright.
Hair not that long ago, but how would you guys feel about doing another musical?
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So just like The Firm, this is a movie that I've only seen the second half of with my grandmother. I've never seen it fully, but I figured maybe now's time to take a full look at The King and I.
Which one?
The
Yeah, which one?
1958 one. Or
Okay.
56, not 58, my bad.
Because I know there's like an animated one, an infamous animated one.
Oh,
The King
really?
and I, cool.
I never would have expected you to choose this.
I know this is an oddball pick for me.
This is a very oddball pick, and I've
This
never
would be a
actually seen
you
it.
pick, honestly.
I've never seen The King and I.
Really? I thought you would.
No. No.
I'm familiar with the
So
'90s animated musical. That's it. I haven't even seen the '90s animated musical. I've seen parts of it.
surprisingly, I'm not too familiar with Rodgers and Hammerstein's works. Like I know The Sound of Music, I know Oklahoma, but
I haven't seen
that's
those
kind
either.
of it.
Yeah.
Very, very fascinating.
Right.
Oh, right, Closer.
I will kill you for killing my father.
Right.